Ramblin' Run Boone.
Thank you, Mike. I talked to Mike on the phone, and I told him I had this guitar, and he said, "Why don't you bring it and talk a little bit about it?" So I dug it out of the closet and blew the dust off of it. And it all starts back in a few years back. I went to Alaska, and I stopped off at Yellowstone National Park. And there was a lady friend of ours, she plays banjo, Donna Egbert. You remember Donna? She was out there. And she worked for the Institute at Yellowstone. So we jammed there with some of the folks at the Institute. And they told me about a place in Bozeman, Montana, where I could get a Gibson guitar. And I was all set on getting a Gibson. And I went to the Gibson store, went to this hermetically sealed room where they keep all the cigars and good guitars. And I picked up this one that was left-handed, and it was in tune, and I started to play a little bit. And as I was finished and I was putting it back, I looked, there was glue oozing out of the pick guard. And I said, well, that's enough of that Gibson stuff. So I went, did the Martin factory a couple times, and I decided on getting a Martin. This is a nylon string guitar. It's not a classical, it's a guitar with nylon strings. I did that because of my tender little fingertips, you know. So on the way back from Alaska, I found myself in Bozeman, Montana again. And as I was having dinner, there was a news flash that there were 9 coal miners trapped in a flooded Q Creek mine in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. And I grew up as a coal miner's son, and I heard all these stories. And something like that would never come out very well. And fortunately for this instance, they were all saved, if you remember correctly. But anyway, I fell asleep with that on my mind, and fell asleep, and around midnight I woke up and had this story. And I said, I'm gonna start to write. You ever write a song that when you were finished it was done the first time? Well, I woke up next morning and I looked at it, and I didn't make any corrections. This is the way I wrote it. Called Coal Miners 2. Morgan and old Cavendish sat down and talked one day. They talked about coal mine work like it was yesterday. They talked about how hard they worked. Muscles red and sore. They talked about the things they bought down at the company store. They talked about the strike they had to help the working man, how the scabs the boss brought in were run off by the Klan. They knew that when the whistle blew, well off the scheduled time, something very terrible went on deep in the mine. They remember how they stood around till they counted every head, and how the final tally told how many men were dead. The widow moaned, the orphan cried. Oh, what do they do? Some would stay and some move on, start their life anew. Morgan and old Cavendish walked on without a sound. They both know the day is great if you wake up above the ground.